Hey folks, Sam Whitfield here. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for downloading the audio podcast and listening to the show wherever you may be. I really appreciate it. And I would like to let you know that you can also now support the show directly via Anchor. If you go to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report, you can now support the show using Apple Pay or Android Pay on your mobile device, depending on which type of phone you have. And you can contribute $1, $5, or $10 as the three levels of contribution. I would really appreciate anything that you can give. Every little bit helps the show. And you can find the link to support the show directly in your show notes, depending on which app you're using. I would really appreciate the support if you can. If not, please continue to support the show by giving us a rating on iTunes and sharing with your friends. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Alrighty, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from NGC Studio here in South Florida. I want to thank you for joining me so much tonight. As usual, if you would like to get in touch with me during the show or at any time, you can of course follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @Somebody_NGC, hashtag Whitfield Report. You can follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield, Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. Of course, thesamwhitfield.com is my official website. You can also find the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And of course, happy September, everyone. It's September 1st, the first day of the month. So how about that? You get to start the month off listening to me. And since it is the beginning of the month, you know what that means. It's time to list off our patrons, those of my listeners who are supporting the show financially, either on Patreon or on Anchor listener support. Whichever way you're contributing to the show, I greatly appreciate. So I want to give a shout out to my friend Catherine Holiday, runs the Kitten Holiday blog. She contributed at the $5 level for Patreon, so I want to thank her for that. I also want to thank my friend Not Cannabear. He's also contributing at the $5 level. So I want to thank him for that too. Couple people contributing at the dollar level on Patreon too. I want to thank those people as well. And then of course, my buddy Quinn is supporting the show via Anchor listener support. at the very generous level of $10 per month. Very generous contribution. Of course, all of the contributions are generous, and I want to thank everyone who is supporting the show by those mediums. You're why I'm able to keep this podcast commercial free, and with your help, I'll be able to continue to grow and expand the show and improve the quality and bring on more guests and maybe eventually take this show on the road. So I want to thank everyone who is supporting the show financially, and of course I want to thank all of you who are supporting the show even if you aren't financially. I want to thank all of those who are also liking the videos and sharing them with your friends and leaving comments and subscribing, and also subscribing on Anchor and all the other podcast platforms, and sharing this with your friends and families and coworkers. I really appreciate it. Alright, now that we've got the business and promotional end of the show out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's topic is honestly going to be a break from politics. There wasn't that much in the news this week regarding politics, and I suppose that's kind of a good thing. Last week was just a whirlwind of political news with Russia, with quote-unquote Russiagate stuff breaking out. We also had the whole thing with Trump and Trump's lawyers and the whole Michael Cohen thing. We covered that last week pretty in depth. This week, thank God, we've got a little bit of a break from politics, and so I won't spend too much time talking politics, but there is one thing, and I brought this up on Thursday's edition of the podcast, which was audio only. On Thursday, I talked about the downfall of the Me Too movement and how Anthony Bourdain's girlfriend, Asia Argento, she's kind of been the de facto, well, not the de facto leader, but she was one of the main figureheads of the Me Too movement. And I guess a young man who I would say is now either 23 or 22, so actually right around my age, recently won a lawsuit against her because she sexually assaulted him when he was 17 on the 7 movie or something like that. So on Thursday we talked a little bit about that, and the general consensus, and rightly so, with Asia Argento, or I think that's how I'm pronouncing her name. I've heard it. That's how I've heard it pronounced. But regardless, I think the whole point that people are starting to realize, and rightly so, is you can't. Those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. And, in the case of Asia Argento, she started the Me Too movement, in essence, with a few other high-profile actresses. And, yet, as a result, she herself has been swept up in the Me Too movement as a perpetrator. And I kind of find that poetic justice, and I'm glad that she's actually gotten swept up into this somewhat. The one thing I was always critical of with the Me Too movement, believe me, I still have plenty of criticisms for that movement, but one of my biggest criticisms was that it seemed that it was a movement exclusively geared towards towards sexual misconduct and sexual abuse against exclusively actresses or other female performances in the Hollywood community. And of course we all know that, or at least we all should know, that sexual abuse does happen to both genders. So I actually am kind of glad that, she kind of got swept up in the Me Too thing as well. Obviously I'm not glad for the kid, but I guess what I'm saying with her is I'm glad that she was exposed for what she did, and now, she's kind of being lumped in with all the other people. She's having to live up to her own standards finally, and that's got to be tough for her. It also, I don't know if this is true. I've heard theories on the internet about this, but many are now speculating that Anthony Bourdain may have tried to pay off the kid, and there are other speculations that she's done this before, and perhaps she and Anthony paid some of the victims off, and so that was why he was suicidal. I don't know. That's just what I've read online, and that's a theory. I can't confirm or deny. I'm just reporting what I've heard. But if that is true, that makes sense, certainly. So that was what I talked about on Thursday's audio podcast, and again, that's an audio exclusive, so go over to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get your podcast from and listen to that. Friday, yesterday, actually late Thursday night after I recorded the audio podcast, it was announced, or I guess revealed, that comedian Louie CK, made a surprise appearance at a comedy club in New York City. Now, I've said from the beginning of the whole Louie CK thing, I don't condone what he did, obviously. I find what he did to be disgusting. That probably wasn't a great thing for, him to be doing career-wise, and it's just all around disgusting. There's no denying it. And I'm glad he got called out on it. But at the same time, I am a fan of his comedy. I have been for a long time. And I'm not going to stop, liking his comedy. Even though I don't agree with what he did, even though I don't condone it. It's not in the same realm of Harvey Weinstein, it's not even in the same league as someone like Harvey Weinstein or, God forbid, Bill Cosby. He did nothing illegal. It was gross, but it was also consensual, too. So, anyway, hey Chuck. Chuck has a funny comment, too. Louie CK is the Macy's perfume section of sex. He'll just spray that shit on you unasked. Yeah, funny that you should mention that, because I was actually at Nordstrom today, which is where I got this new hat, by the way. This is a new one I'm wearing, and I got that. It's funny they mentioned that, because I actually got sprayed on my way out with perfume, and then the lady there was saying, "We have a special It's a $92 masculine men's perfume. And it's like, well, hey, I don't think men wear perfume. We wear cologne, but not perfume. And at $92 a bottle, well, I'm a broke college student. I can't really afford that. This hat was only like $30 though, so it was a pretty good deal actually. At any rate, like I was saying, Louie CK's situation is interesting because, like I said, while I don't condone what he did, for him to be lumped in with the likes of Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby is absurd. And this is my big problem with the whole Me Too movement, is we've taken all these cases of either sexual misconduct, or in the case of Bill Cosby, sexual assault and rape and crimes, and we've kind of mushed them all together so that they're all equally bad in the eyes of the Me Too. Now, in a way, they are, but I think there are different degrees of severity, right? If you're like a bank robber, but you don't hurt anyone, you don't get the death penalty, obviously. Whereas opposed to if you're a serial killer, you obviously would. There are different punishments for different crimes in the criminal justice system, and yet one of the big problems with the Me Too movement is we've kind of lumped them all into be like the absolute worst thing possible, okay? Louie is being treated exactly the same by lots of these Me Too critics as by a lot of these Me Too accusers. He's being treated the same way as Bill Cosby. And like I said, I don't condone what he did, but come on, that's a little ridiculous. Like I said, and like he said, he's not proud of it. It was mostly all consensual, and even the women said it was consensual. It was weird, but it was consensual. So the reason why I bring this up is Louie CK was at a New York Comedy Club on Saturday, on Friday, I guess, of this week, and he did a set, and he got a big standing ovation for his return. And apparently, though, that wasn't good enough for his critics, his Me Too critics, who think he came back too soon to the comedy scene. So anyway, I have a clip here from NBC News, which kind of recaps the story of his return to comedy. I want to play this for you. So this is the first, audio soundbite of the evening. This is the NBC News report on Louie CK's return to comedy. Let's roll the tape.
Louie CK's performance on Sunday night at a New York comedy club was just 15 minutes. His appearance unannounced. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. It was his first performance since being accused of exposing and touching himself in front of multiple women.
He was just like regular Louie.
The club owner says he made no mention of it in his act.
I do wish he had. I think it would have been much better for him. I think it would have taken some of the heat off of us.
In November, Louie CK admitted that the accusations of sexual misconduct were true. The response was swift. His deals with FX Network, Netflix, and HBO were canceled. Now the comedian and the New York club are facing criticism for his performance.
It's a very difficult position to be standing between a person and his livelihood.
I know that Me Too was supposed to destroy a lot of men's careers. It hasn't exactly. But what it didn't do is give women the opportunity to have careers.
Last May,
Okay, now that statement right there, ladies and gentlemen, it makes no sense to me, honestly. What, so we're supposed to just give these women careers in comedy now or in film just because they were victims of sexual misconduct? I mean, granted, there were lots of, women who, in the case of Harvey Weinstein, were, pressured to allow Weinstein to masturbate in front of him or suck his dick or whatever he had them do, and if they did it, he gave them a career. And if they didn't, then he ruined them. And I think that is sickening, and I think that is certainly coercion. I think that's a crime. But just because that happened, and just because Louie acted unprofessional, that doesn't mean that that these actresses or these comedians, these female comics, are automatically entitled to having careers in Hollywood or whatever portion of show business. That's like me going to the Olympics, to the Olympic Committee, and basically saying, I want to be a 500 meter, a 500 dash runner. That's always been my dream, but I can't because I'm physically handicapped. But you guys need to make, you guys need to allow me to be a runner anyway, because, I can do on my own. That's kind of what this is like, okay? Yeah, I'm sure there were some talented actresses, or some talented potential actresses, that got screwed over, both metaphorically and literally, by Harvey Weinstein. I'm sure there were, but I'm also sure that there were plenty of women who were screwed by Harvey Weinstein, and maybe by Louie, with the whole masturbation thing, that still didn't deserve careers in Hollywood. So just because this happened doesn't mean that women should automatically get careers from them. Same with men. But anyway, let's continue this clip. 48 seconds left. Roll the tape.
Louie CK's accusers, Rebecca Corey, wrote an article saying she received death threats and was attacked online since going public. Also writing, the idea that CK re-entering the public eye would ever be considered a comeback story is disturbing. The guy exploited his position of power to abuse women. In his statement last year, Louie CK wrote, there is nothing about this that I forgive myself for, adding, I will now step back and take a long time to listen.
Okay, and that is one thing I want to bring up too real quick. And I know this doesn't excuse his behavior. I'm not saying it does. But I've brought this up before, and I'll bring it up again. You do have to at least, maybe not admire him, that's not the right word, but you do have to respect him, or at least give him credit for coming out ahead of this and not trying to deny what happened. He could have just as easily done that, and gone the route of Bill Cosby. Had he done that and tried to cover things up, obviously, I still wouldn't be a fan of his. I wouldn't be supporting what he's doing. I'd be much more critical, and I would be in agreement with these women that, what he did was wrong. But the fact that he did show the integrity to come out ahead of this thing and say, yeah, they're true, and I'm not proud of it, and I'm going to step back and take a break. That might not be, again, I'm not saying I admire that necessarily, but I respect it. I don't think, I wish more celebrities did that when they messed up, like, Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan, they've messed up too. How many times do we give those stars a second chance? Yet, we can't give Louie a second chance because, hashtag me too. It's become a whole movement. So, I'll finish up this clip.
His critics don't think he took long enough. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News fans,
Okay. Yes. So I guess I pretty much had finished that clip up. So like I said, I don't condone what he did. I don't think anyone does. I don't think his fans do. But I think we also recognize that he admitted to making a mistake. And by the way, the mistake he made was like long before he was famous too. Like I think it happened like way back in 2002. And I think maybe then he was like just starting to get known, like in the underground scene. But, it's not like he was doing this as recently as like 2 years ago. It was something he did when he was much younger, and then he did recognize that it was wrong and he stopped doing it, and yet, he still got thrown under the Me Too bus for something that he did like a long time ago. At least that's, by all accounts from what I've read, that's the case. That's what happened. So, Joe Rogan had an interesting take on this whole thing, and so did Tom Papa. This got brought up on Rogan's podcast. I won't play the whole segment, but I do want to play a little bit of it. And Kyle Dunnigan, who is a hilarious impressionist, Ryan Marhofer and I have talked about Kyle Dunnigan before. Kyle Dunnigan did a impression of Trump basically congratulating Louie CK on returning to comedy, and Joe Rogan actually plays that clip on his show. So hopefully it'll allow me to play this. But anyway, here's the clip of Rogan talking to Tom Papa about Louie CK's return to comedy and their whole opinion. Like I said, I don't want to play the whole clip, but I do want to play at least a portion of it. And I'll link it in the show notes on the audio version for those who want to go back and listen to it later. Alright, roll this clip.
do anything.
So what do you think about this Louie CK thing? Louis CK has returned. And
Yeah, he came
up
back.
in arms.
Everybody's going crazy.
Kyle Dunnigan did go to Kyle Dunnigan's page and pull out his Instagram.
Oh, really?
Kyle Dunnigan, who has the best Instagram page, the best.
It's the best.
If you're not going there, it's Donald Trump
There's something wrong with
congratulating
it.
Louis CK for his return.
Oh, no.
Give me some volume.
Hey, Louie! Trump loved what you did at the comedy club. So terrific. Nobody knew what was happening until you were standing right in front of them spewing out your material. Classic Louie.
Well, thank you, sir.
You didn't ask anyone if they wanted to see it. You gave them no choice but to watch you work it. Beautiful.
I just went there to do some jokes. They were good jokes. People are like, oh, too soon. I'm on stage forever.
You should have talked about the elephant in the room, though, okay? Start off with something like, hey, I just flew in from California, and boy, are my arms tired from jacking off in the airplane the whole time. It was terrific. Everybody was trapped in there forced to watch me. Best plan of my life.
No way, you crazy? I'm not doing that joke.
Okay, I gotta go, okay?
Yeah, me too.
Me too. Louie CK, you're hilarious. Hey,
All right, so real quick, I've just got to comment that is hilarious. And, Kyle Dunnigan, he doesn't do the best Trump I've heard. It's pretty good. It's getting better. His Bill Maher is spot on, actually. Like, if I didn't know it was Kyle Dunnigan, I would have literally thought that it was, Bill Maher. So definitely check out his Instagram, and his impression of Louie is spot on as well. I mean, I almost wondered if he called up Louie and got him to do the, sketch himself. Obviously not, but that's just how talented of a impressionist Kyle Dunnigan is. He's like another Dana Carvey, almost. Dana Carvey is the master of impressions and whatnot. Anyway, so like I said, Rogan and Papa have a pretty interesting take on this. I'll just play a short excerpt. Alright, let's continue playing this.
Oh, he's so damn
shout
funny.
out to Kyle Dunnigan.
Oh, my old roommate.
Is he your old roommate?
Oh, yeah,
Really?
Kyle and I, for sure.
Where'd you guys live together?
New York City in a
shit.
horrible one-bedroom apartment, had no doors. I was on a futon. He was in the back. We had no windows. It was covered with roaches.
Wow.
No sink in the bathroom.
Look at you now, making bread on TV. Kyle Dunnigan's mocking the president and one of the best comedians of our age.
I know, it's so great. Oh, what a mess.
Yeah.
What a mess.
What do you think about this? Some people don't want him to come back. Some people think he should be allowed to come back and he served time off. And then the argument by a lot of women is, yeah, but he hasn't said anything. Like he had one.
Done anything.
Yeah. What shows that he's learned anything? Like what should you have to do?
I don't know. I mean, Louie's very smart. I'm sure if he wants to keep doing it after this reception, he'll probably come out with some statement or do something. I don't know. But the reality is, what did he lose? They took away, networks took away his stuff. Just film distributors weren't going to put out his film.
Well, the film.
But as a comedian.
By all accounts, the film was shit. Anybody who's seen the film.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I have a few friends that saw it. They're like, it's just so creepy and weird, especially in light of like
what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like.
No, but regardless whether it was good or not, I'm just saying, like,
right.
The industry said, FX said, I'm taking this show from you. HBO said, we're taking this stuff off. Netflix said, we're taking this off.
Well,
right?
he definitely lost money financially.
But those are entities that.
Okay, but is that punishment or is that them exercising their desire to not work with someone who's been accused of something that they don't want to be associated with?
Yeah.
Like, is that a punishment? That seems to me that they're making a decision of who they work with and who they not work with.
Right.
It affects him negatively.
Sure.
But it's not necessarily a punishment.
Well, I don't know. I think it would feel like a punishment.
Sure.
But my point is, there's these entities that can prevent him from making a living. As a comedian, though, he can walk into a garage, and if he has fans, they're going to come see him.
Right.
He has that under his control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody can stop that. Nobody. So he can do it. It's up to him whether he wants to or not. It's up to his fans whether they show up or not. And it's up to the people that hate what he did and are really against him to not go.
Right. That's why this thing was weird, because like he just showed up at the Cellar, which is like his favorite place to go, and he just worked out material.
And the audience, like Kyle is saying, is just they're trapped in there and they can't get out. They didn't have an option to say, I don't want to see him.
It's really interesting, all the different spins, though, all the different women's spins. You know, and one really bizarre spin that I saw was this woman was saying that this is indicative of the problem of all comedy clubs, an aggressive male audience, and women sitting there feeling threatened, not being able to use their voice. I'm like, use their voice? Like, what are you going to heckle? They're saying like you would be more empowered if there were more women, so you could heckle.
Yeah,
like, that's not cool. Like, you're not supposed to do that at a comedy club. If you don't like someone, just don't laugh. You know,
right.
But like,
I mean, this one.
But here's the thing: it's not your job, or it's not your place to say that you don't like someone when the other people do like it. You know, if you're
right,
I do want to interject here, ladies and gentlemen. That exactly seems to be like what this whole Me Too thing in terms of Louie is about. Again, he did nothing illegal, and yet the Me Too thing has basically said, well, he didn't do anything illegal. What he did was disgusting. He's apologized, but yet we can't forgive him, so no one should be able to see him anymore. Like I said towards the beginning of the show, you know, well, I don't necessarily admire him for it. I have to give him credit for getting out ahead of this. You know, and saying, yeah, the rumors are true, rather than, you know, doing a Bill Cosby thing of, no, it never happened. And then, like, you know, 30 years later, almost 40 years later, we find out that it is true. Hey, Brian, thanks for tuning in. Sorry, we're about ready to wrap up the show. It's a bit of a short one tonight, but anyway, like I was saying, you know, and Joe brings up a good point. If you don't like Louie, don't buy his comedy and don't support him. If he bothers you that much, then just don't buy his stuff. But the other thing I mentioned that I want to, the other thing I mentioned at the beginning of the program. And I've brought this up before, but it is extremely weird to me that people, okay, after Louie CK, after the whole Me Too thing started, prior to that, I mean, I was a pretty big vocal Louie CK fan. I watched his FX TV show. I bought all of his comedy, his stand-up albums off of his website, you know, and at $5 a piece. It was really cheap to do that. So, I mean, I have all his comedy albums. I got Horace and Pete, which is his mini series. And had his movie come out, I probably would have watched it. Louie's politics certainly don't align with mine. Politically, I mean, I disagree with him. But like as a comedian and as a creative artist, I think he's extremely funny and extremely talented. I mean, and as an artist, I've admired him and supported him. So when the whole Me Too thing happened, there were like a lot of people who were like, so, you know, I guess this means that you're gonna like dislike his Facebook page and, you know, get rid of his comedy albums. And I'm like, well, no. And they were like, no. What do you mean? He's part of the Me Too thing. And it's like, I don't condone what he did, obviously. But think of it this way, right? This was a conversation I had with this person. I said, think of it this way. I've already paid for those albums and his TV show. He's already got my money. So, like, me deleting digital files that, like, I already paid for, I'm not taking anything away from him. You know, he's not on Patreon, so it's not like me, you know, canceling my subscription is like hurting him or anything like that. You know, and like getting rid of his, like he already has the money. I get that it's symbolic, but you know, it's not doing anything to him, especially since it's, you know, all digital material. Second of all, I don't condone what he did, but I mean, the material is still funny. Some of it now is like cringeworthy. Like, and that's the other thing, folks. Like, in a very dark way, I did think it was hilarious. I do think it was kind of hilarious that he got busted for, you know, jerking off in front of women. Like I said, I don't condone it, but in a sort of ironic way, it's kind of funny because his entire bit was basically like, you know, the state of the world, politics, and then like, you know, the vast majority of it was like, you know, messed up masturbation jokes, or, you know, jokes about how he's 50, so he can't jerk off as much anymore. So, Brian writes, you know what's not funny? Hair in your toothpaste. Okay. I'm not really sure what that has to do with anything. But yeah, that's not funny. But yeah. All right. So anyway, Rogan was making some pretty good points, and you know, I do kind of want to see where, like I said, I won't play the whole clip, but I do want to play like a little more of it because I interrupted Rogan's point. Yeah. And then I'll do afterwards. I'll do a wrap up and close all that stuff. So. Let's see. Resume. Okay.
You can get up and walk out.
Yeah, just like you're going to see a movie.
Yeah.
Like you're an audience member.
Right.
The deal is you're not there to perform. The audience is there to just sit there and laugh or not laugh.
Right.
But don't be rude to the other people that are enjoying it. So as soon as you put your sensibilities above the rest of the audience, well, you're a problem.
Right.
You've made If you decide, like, hey, I didn't like this, I'm going to go home and write about it, that's totally your prerogative.
That's fine. Get up and walk out.
Yeah, or
that's fine.
Go somewhere else and talk about it on stage yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with any of those things.
Yeah.
But this one woman's take was like, women don't feel like they have they have the ability to speak out about it. I'm like, speak out. Like, so you're saying, like, to heckle, hey, I don't want you on stage. I know everything about you and your story.
And it's
I
up to
don't
me.
want you to perform in front of me, even those other people are laughing.
Right.
And that these aggressive men were yelling, good to see you back, Louie. Aggressive men. Like, what? Okay. That's like, there's a framing of this. And this is it becomes this male versus female framing that Louie sort of represents aggressive men, sexual men doing things to women they don't want. The women are sitting there inside.
Okay, Joe, that's the entire Me Too movement thread. You know, I hate to give Owen Benjamin credit on this. I really do. But he did nail it on the head when he said that the Me Too movement is basically, demonizing all men, and, it's another men versus women thing. It's not helping the two sexes get along better, it's dividing them. It's become like, instead of, helping the sexes to understand each other, it's become a big political thing. So, and by the way, thanks, Brian. I like the tattoo. I just got it today. So, anyway. But yeah, the Me Too thing has, definitely become almost entirely about, man-hating, and all women are victims. And like I said at the very beginning of the program, I am glad that Asia Argento is finally getting called out by the Me Too movement for her, sexual abuse of a teenage boy. That's good, at least. But, yeah. Yeah, Brian, I hear you. Right? Yeah. Understand women? Good luck. That's Brian's comment. No, Brian. I get what I get what you mean, right? And that's kind of why the Me Too movement is absurd. It's absurd for a whole bunch of ways, but anyway. All right. Do you have anything else to say here, Mr. Joe Rogan?
Silence. They don't want to be there, and they don't have a voice because they feel overwhelmed and overpopulated or outnumbered.
The problem is those guys that Harvey and him and Matt Lauer and people like that, they are the poster boys for that. So they're going to be watched very closely. And
how does Matt Lauer fit into that? I get confused by this one. By all accounts, Matt Lauer had affairs, right? In the office with girls who worked with him. So what was inappropriate is he was having sex with his staff, right?
Right, but he was also hitting on people that didn't want to be hit on in his office. Yeah, that was the accusations. Yeah, it wasn't just he was dating them. He was also, making weird advancements in the office. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is.
But all these guys, they're all very complicated. They're all very fuzzy kind of things. But, those guys are going to be watched very closely. As you see, Louie just goes to this little club and does a set, and it's national news and national debate. It's like, it's heady stuff.
It's heady stuff.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is that as a culture, we're going through this great time of change.
Yeah.
And this great time of introspective thinking and of observing our behavior and discussing our behavior and watching this. Like, you have the worst case examples of which, in my opinion, is Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
The worst case example, like drugging people and raping them. I mean, there's a woman who was on television on CNN. She said something that freaked me out once. She said,
all right, they're kind of veering off the whole Louis thing. It's not really relevant anymore. Like I said, I'll post the clip in the show notes. It is a fascinating clip to watch. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's about 15 minutes long, and we've watched 8 minutes of it total, broken up with my commentary. So, anywho, I guess the point in tonight's show is basically, and the question of the evening is, we've given other celebrities like Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan multiple second chances when they've messed up. I would say Louis deserves that same second chance. Apparently the feminist mob that has become the Me Too movement, they don't think so. But like I said, I hope he returns to comedy soon. I think the one thing he has going for him is even if the networks like still won't do any deals with him because of the political thought and whatnot, I think he has a big enough audience just going to his website now that he could he could do a couple of productions on his website, and it might not be enough to get him out of the red hole automatically, like in terms of debt and whatnot. But it certainly would be a start. So yeah, let's see. Brian says, yeah, we let Sheen have a second chance, and he went and got AIDS. Brian, not only did we give Charlie Sheen a second chance, but we gave Charlie Sheen, like, he even joked about this once before on his Comedy Central roast. I remember. I can't remember his exact joke he made of himself, but it's like, yeah, everyone has given me like 47 chances in my life, and yet I still keep, fucking up. So, and he was admitting it right there himself in that roast. Same with Lindsay Lohan. So, I understand that we're in a super PC culture, but come on, like I said, if we can give Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan a second chance, no, I'll up the ante. If we can forgive Bill Clinton, for all his sexual misconduct, and kind of give him and his crazy evil wife the benefit of the doubt, as a nation, and allow her to run for president of the United States, in which she could have hypothetically wanted. If we're willing to give the Clintons a second chance, much to my begrudging, well, I mean, hell, what Louis has done compared to the Clinton crime family is like minuscule. Well, Brian, I agree. I agree that we can't forgive Clinton, but it seems kind of like the mass popular culture has. Like, the same people who won't forgive Louis have forgiven Bill Clinton. So, right, no, I hear you. Right, yeah, they are, doing that and other evil stuff. That's what's weird. Is Louis doing his stuff, which is weird, and gross, but it's nothing compared to what the Clintons are doing, and yet they give Bill Clinton a pass, but yet we can't forgive. They can't forgive a comedian who made a mistake in his youth, in his 20s, a second chance, almost 15 years later. I don't know. It's weird. All right, folks. So that about does it for tonight's show. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And like I said, it's the beginning of the month. Thanks to all the supporters of the show, whether it was on Patreon or on Anchor, for supporting the show. And thanks for tuning in and supporting the show. I'm going to do my second podcast this evening, the American Watchmen Roundtable, so I'll post a link to that. And, folks, I do want to make one quick announcement. I'm doing I've got new audio software, which is recording the audio of this YouTube stream into a second application. It's supposed to boost the audio quality of the audio podcasts. So, if any of you are listening to this on the audio stream, let me know how it turns out on the podcast, on the audio podcast. It should be a bit loud. It should be a bit louder, and a bit smoother, and it should sound better. So, yeah. Oh, thanks for popping in there at the end, Ludwig. All right, folks. I'll see you next week if you're only interested in tuning into the Whitfield Report, and if you're interested in tuning into the American Watchman Roundtable, tune into that in 5 minutes. Just search American Watchman on YouTube and search under the channels tab. Don't go under the video tab because it'll just show a whole bunch of clips from the Watchmen movie. So, anyway, folks, like I said, have a great week. Happy September. Good night. God bless. God save this great nation. And, since he's not around to say it anymore, I'll just steal his catchphrase. God, freedom, legacy, in that order. Good night, and thank you for, listening / watching.